They weren't seasoned Sith Lords or battle-hardened mercenaries. They were just a clique of bored, fabulously wealthy aristocrats who treated the dark side of the Force like a fashionable plaything, until they accidentally unlocked ancient secrets that drowned an entire star system in blood. Greetings, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, and welcome back to the Infernal Brotherhood. When we think of threats to the Old Republic, we usually imagine dark armies marching out of the unknown regions or hidden academies on Korriban. But 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire, one of the most devastating dark side insurgencies in history was born out of pure high society boredom. Today we open the Holocron on the Krath Cult. Founded by a couple of spoiled aristocratic cousins in the Empress Teta system, this secret society evolved from a reckless occult club into a monolithic theocratic regime. Armed with ancient Sith sorcery, devastating war droids, and terrifying illusions, they successfully brought down legendary Jedi Masters and permanently altered the course of galactic history. The story of the Krath begins in the immensely wealthy Empress Teta system, an area of space completely dominated by elite corporate families and royal bloodlines. By the year 3998 BBY, the heirs apparent to the Teta throne, Seital Kato and his beautiful cousin Alima, have absolutely everything money could buy. They were brilliant, charismatic, and profoundly bored. Seeking a new thrill to shock their high society peers, they formed a secret society composed entirely of wealthy, understimulated noble youths. They named their cult the Krath, a title taken directly from a terrifying magician god featured in the fairy tales of their childhood. At first, the Krath was nothing more than an edgy underground club where nobles wore robes and played with minor occult concepts. But Seital and Alima craved genuine power. During an official state visit to the Galactic Museum on Coruscant, the cousins spotted an ancient, heavily secured book of authentic Sith lore and rituals. Using their resources and minor untrained Force sensitivities, they stole the artifact. What started as an elite social game suddenly became a direct gateway into the blackest depths of ancient Sith history. Though they possessed the stolen book, the text was written in an encrypted, archaic Sith language that neither cousin could decipher. Desperate for a translation, Seital and Alima traveled directly to the world of Androu, which was currently tearing itself apart in the explosive aftermath of the Freedom Nad uprising. The cousins successfully navigated the war zone and tracked down the subterranean stronghold of King Amin. Amin saw the raw, uninhabited ambition in the youth nobles. He gifted Seital a rare alchemical Sith translation talisman, an artifact that allowed its wearer to instantly comprehend any Force-imbued Sith writings. Right as the Jedi Task Force breached the underworld to defeat Amin, the malevolent Force ghost of Freda Nad manifested. Recognizing that Amin's time had passed, the ancient Sith ghost explicitly chose Seital and Alima to inherit his dark legacy. Nad promised to guide the young Titans into the magnificent new Sith Golden Age. Armed with the translation talisman, the spellbook, and the personal backing of a Sith ghost, the cousins fled Onderon and returned to their home system. The playful secret society was officially dead, replaced by a weaponized Sith engine. Upon returning to the Empress Teta system, the Krath launched a sudden, terrifyingly coordinated military coup. Utilizing their immense family wealth and dark side influence, they overthrew the ruling monarchy, carbon-freezing the elder Titan leaders as living trophies. In their place, they established a brutal theocracy known as the Krath Order, ruled from a monolithic command center called the Iron Citadel in the capital city of Sinagar. When the oppressed Titan citizens launched a massive civil war to reclaim their democracy, the Republic and the Jedi Order intervened, sending a combined fleet to crush the upstart cult. But the coalition completely underestimated the raw power of Sith sorcery. While Seital handled the political and military logistics, Alima Kato had developed an extraordinary, terrifying talent for casting massive Sith illusions. As the Republic fleet emerged from hyperspace, Alima stood in her ritual chambers and projected gargantuan photorealistic hallucinations of fire-breathing space dragons directly into the minds of the Republic pilots. Panicked, disoriented, and blinded by fake telemetry, the Republic ships accidentally opened fire on one another, breaking their own formations and allowing the Krath fleet to completely obliterate them. The Krath had successfully defied both the Senate and the Jedi. Realizing the Krath were a localized cancer threatening to spread across the entire core, the Jedi Order called for an extraordinary emergency assembly on the planet Deniba. Over 10,000 Jedi Masters and Knights gathered to strategize a counteroffensive. Seytal Kato saw this massive gathering not as a threat, but as a perfect opportunity to test the Krath's newest technological nightmare, the Krath War Droid. These were sleek, humanoid battle droids constructed in the foundries of Sinagar. They were heavily armored, carried lethal pulse wave bows, and possessed specialized gyro-balancing assembly systems that allowed them to drop onto all fours and race forward at blinding, horrifying speeds. Krath hidden agents secretly infiltrated Deniba, sabotaging the programming of the servant droids already stationed at the Jedi Convocation. At the height of the meeting, the servant droids suddenly turned on their masters, sparking immediate chaos. Simultaneously, Krath infiltration ships in orbit deployed life pods packed with hundreds of Krath war droids directly into the assembly grounds. The mindless automatons swarmed the Jedi, prioritizing the most powerful targets first. During the frantic, bloody defense, the legendary Arcanian, Jedi Master Arca Jeth, used a specialized force technique to short-circuit waves of the machines, but he was tragically blindsided and killed by a lethal plasma barrage. Though the Jedi ultimately won the battle, the psychological damage was catastrophic. The Krath had successfully struck the heart of the Order. The death of Master Arca Jeth completely unhinged his star pupil, Ulic Qel-Droma. Driven by a toxic mix of grief and arrogance, Ulic enacted a reckless plan. He would travel to Empress Teta, pretend to be a fallen Jedi, infiltrate the Krath, and dismantle them from within. But the Krath were masters of deception. While Seytal Kato deeply mistrusted Ulic, subjecting him to torture and injecting him with a highly concentrated, mind-altering Sith poison, Alima Kato was utterly captivated by Ulic's power. She used her dark allure and manipulation to seduce the young knight. When Seytal's paranoia drove him to attempt to execute Ulic, the poisoned, corrupted Jedi snapped. Ulic murdered Seytal Kato in cold blood, taking his place alongside Alima as the co-ruler of the Krath. Shortly after, the rogue Jedi prodigy Exar Kun arrived to eliminate Ulic as a rival. After their historic duel was interrupted by the ancient spirit of Mark Aragnos, Exar Kun was crowned Dark Lord of the Sith, with Ulic named his primary apprentice. The Krath Cult was seamlessly absorbed into Exar Kun's new Sith Empire, serving as the fanatical primary military backbone of the Great Sith War. The cultists launched a bloody galactic crusade, constructing dark-side-tainted temples across captured worlds and utilizing elite zealots encased in holy battle armor. Ulic used the Krath military to defeat Mandalore the Indomitable, adding the Mandalorian Crusaders to their war machines and launching an audacious, full-scale invasion of Coruscant itself. For all their terrifying power, the Krath were fundamentally rooted in selfishness and deceit. As the Republic and Jedi pushed back with ferocious resistance, internal fractures broke the cult apart. Driven by jealousy, fear, and a desperate desire for absolute control, Alima Kato ultimately betrayed Ulic Qel-Droma during the Battle of Coruscant, ordering the Krath forces to retreat and leaving Ulic to be captured by the Jedi. Alima's treachery was her undoing. Once Ulic was rescued by Exar Kun, the Dark Lord orchestrated a poetic execution for the Taytan princess, tricking her into using an ancient Sith superweapon that triggered a stellar supernova, completely incinerating her and her fleet. When Ulic was eventually redeemed and stripped of the Force, and Exar Kun was defeated on Yavin 4, the leaderless Krath cult completely disintegrated into savage internal infighting. The few cultists who survived the Great Sith War fled into the absolute wilderness of the Outer Rim, scattering around the dark side focal points of Korriban. yet their dark legacy endured for millennia. Millennia later, Darth Sidious himself actively sought out and studied surviving Krath's scrolls and sorcery to perfect his mastery of the dark side. Even the physical design of the Krath war droid, with its terrifying hunched agility, served as the direct engineering blueprint for the cyborg frame that would eventually house the biological remains of General Grievous. The Krath Cult remains one of the most unique and cautionary tales in all of Star Wars Legends. They prove that you don't need a Dark Master to find damnation. Sometimes all it takes is an immense amount of privilege, an absence of discipline, and a reckless curiosity about things you were never meant to understand. They played with fire for the aesthetic and ended up burning half the galaxy to the ground. But what do you think of the Krath? Was Ulic's plan to infiltrate them always doomed to fail, or could he have succeeded if Satal hadn't used the Sith poison? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you to my creator patrons Aaron Hardy and D. Robert Handy, producer patrons David Galindo, developer patrons Chris Androu and Sam Ruiz, and all of the YouTube members. Until we convene again, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf herders, may the Force be with you.